The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, which has been the least of government ministries under the microscope, has begun an in-house belt-tightening exercise with Permanent Secretary Halford King leading the way.
I was spending over 3.5 hours trying to not ramble but go through thoroughly what is the assessment of the ministry's performance by the FMA standard, by the Stores Regulation standard, by the Procurement Act standards, and what we found is quite alarming.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Halford King, addressing a gathering of the ministry's employees during a training session for community development officers on Wednesday, Mr. King pleaded with his staff to appreciate that the government is adapting to a serious direction as it relates to changes in the public service. He disclosed that there are legitimate queries into the Ministries of Indigenous Peoples Affairs on accountability.
And I found that most distressing for two reasons. When we were trying to find answers to respond appropriately to those queries, what we found was that there were gaps as it relates to people who should be informed, one, and persons who should be taking action to correct those deficiencies.
The Permanent Secretary added that there is a lot of gaps and parallel operations within the ministry, which revealed persons operating in silence instead of uniting as one. He stressed the aim is to develop a team to deliver the ministry's mandate to its people through a good managerial approach.
We'll have to ensure that we find the right type of persons with the right skill sets, we orient them properly, and we ensure we resource them properly to execute those plans. And in so doing, we must ensure that we develop a quality monitoring and evaluation tool so that all of us are made to account for the usage of these resources.
The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs on Wednesday commenced a 2-day training program for community development officers who will be placed in the 10 administrative regions. Mr. King seized the opportunity at the opening of the training to highlight changes needed at the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs.
I want to remind you that the core values of the public service that we're trying to develop now and modify in keeping with current trends and thinking must always be one that is, you must be operating within the context of integrity. You must be operating within the context of impartiality. And of course, we'd expect over time to operate with a public service where our people are all intelligent.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.